whether that's the way.
By the way, guys, who invited this clown? Like seriously, who's the asshole who invited this guy to represent secularism? Like, just think about like the mindset of the dumb Oxford student who's like, hey, you know who we should get? You know who we should get? We should get Stephen Bennell. I'm sure he's got time in between his court appearances. All right. So Destiny went to the Oxford Union, and the results were funnier than anyone could have hoped. So we're going to enjoy that together. Who is this Muhammad Hijab guy? And how is that? How is that not just the most? I mean, if you're going to debate as a Muslim apologist, Muhammad Hijab is the name to have. You know? It's like... It's like a Christian being called Jesus Paul or something. He's an Islamic fundamentalist. Well, that's unfortunate. Well, be that as it may, he seems to have done a very good job in this debate. Paul Bible, there you go, yeah. But you know what? We don't need everybody to agree with our progressive sensibilities. Sometimes you just need them to be mean to a tiny little bad guy. And that's your job today, glasses man.
The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that whoever builds a mosque for Allah, Allah will build for him a similar house in Jannah.
I don't want to live in a mosque.
And we know the great reward that will not only be gained, but rather will fill your grave after your death.
Dirt.
Whenever someone prays there, whenever someone gives shahada in the masjid, whenever someone learns something in the masjid, yes, that will be something that you'll have on your scale.
That made no sense. None of that made any sense. I never understand people who consume this stuff. Like, I mean, I do at some level. Like, I get it. I get the energy. I get what people get from it. But also at the same time, I'm just thinking the entire time, it's like, does nobody else, like, just review the lines back in their head afterwards and go, you know, Mr. Hijab, I really don't... I really think you needed an editor for this one.
And there's one thing we can all agree on.
Great voice, though.
That the universe is regular, stable.
Like, I mean, just by comparison. It's just unfair, really. You have this guy who's up here, the universe is stable. Yeah, but Jesus, you can hear it. Judges, Mr. President, my wife. Wait.
Uniform. The extent to which it allows life to exist within it. From every small atom to the largest of celestial spheres, we see incredible goal-directedness.
What's funny is that we don't, actually.
Within the cosmos. Now the question is, what is the best explanation for that?
Thetans.
Is it a source of knowledge, or is it a lack thereof?
I don't know what answer I was expecting to that question, but I don't think it was either of those, because why would... I guess... Wait, would it be the goal-directedness? Oh, I see. It would be the apparent goal-directedness. Okay, sure, why not?
This is the question that must be asked.
Says who?
Is it a source of knowledge? Or is it a lack thereof?
Wait, is it a source of knowledge or lack thereof? Not is it the presence of knowledge or lack thereof? So that doesn't work. I'm so confused.
Another question that could be asked is that did something come from nothing? Is it conceivable, intelligible, or plausible for something to come from nothing? That the universe came from nothing?
Well, you wouldn't assert that it came from anything. You would assert that there was always stuff, and that stuff changed shape.
Did the universe generate and cause itself?
No. It's just that it's always there. It doesn't get generated. Generation is something that happens within the flux of the universe. It's not something that happens to the universe.
Well, to suggest that the universe was generated or caused itself is tantamount to saying that a mother gave birth to herself.
Well, through Allah, all things are possible.
And to suggest that there's more than one ultimate source of being, more than one necessary existence,
It's very Bergsonian.
is tantamount to saying
Except not if you read all the way.
that you can have more than one mother to one sole child. Therefore,
Wait, say again? And more than one mother to one sole child? You can, as a matter of fact.
one mother
It's 2025,
to
my
one
dude.
sole child. Therefore, it is clear that monotheism, the idea of one source, that is the foundation for everything that exists.
Including, by the way, the concept of multiplicity, the concept of number. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's a bit of a problem there for you, buddy, isn't it? Because if the conditions under which that logic obtains are also a creation of God, which I think would be the argument, then deploying that logic to account for the singularity of God is arguing in a circle. You're making God the mother of itself, which contradicts what you were just saying.
Is the only reasonable conclusion. Another question that must be asked is, what is the purpose of life?
Vengeance!
What is the purpose of life? Imagine going into work. You don't know who your boss is. You don't know what your role is.
Well, you get fired.
You don't know what you're doing there.
Or you're in the wrong building.
But here we are, in the career of life,
Am I fired?
and we don't know what our purpose is. The purpose of life
Oh, he
is
knows.
to align the finite with the infinite.
Yeah, but you can't do that because it looks like this. Doesn't work.
The purpose of life is to submit to the lawgiver.
Wait, why is he a lawgiver? I thought you just said that the, Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So he's a lawgiver now. If God's a lawgiver, then all the laws that dictate that there must only be a singular God are after that doesn't make any sense, Mo.
The purpose of life is to submit to the ultimate source of all creation. That's why prophets and messengers were sent aforetime.
Because it didn't work, so they had to tell us verbally.
Abraham, Moses, Jesus,
Oh, that's gonna fuck some people off.
and for us, the final prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these prophets came
No, but you left out the one true God, Biamakoitic.
to expound on this truth, to tell people to submit to God.
I shouldn't be an asshole. He does a very good job against Destiny.
And they came with an evidence for their prophethood. As for the prophet,
Who's in the audience here? Do I recognize anybody? I recognize Steven here. He's looking. Dear God, this is not. Imagine you're a millionaire and this is the look you go for. I don't understand it. Is there anybody here I recognize? No, I don't see anybody. This guy's brooding over here. You got Severus Snape in the corner. Nope.
Muhammad, his evidence is that he came with a preserved religion. The Quran is preserved in a way that no other ancient book is.
How's that?
There's a falsification
Oh, we're not going to elaborate it?
test within the Quran,
Really? But how do you know the falsification test is preserved?
challenging humanity to find a contradiction within it.
Who cares if it doesn't have a contradiction? Or you can make a fiction that's totally internally coherent. People complain about plot holes all the time, specifically because we expect internal coherence in our fiction.
Challenging humanity to try and produce a chapter like it. And the Prophet...
I always hear this. I legitimately find this one fascinating, because it's like, is the argument that the feeling they get from reading it is what makes it obviously unchallengeable? Because, like, that's just like your opinion, man. It's such a weird line of argumentation. It's very strange. Like, I don't understand it. And it really has to be like just, it's kind of the meme of it. It's like, that articulation is such a cliche. People hear that and then they roll off of that like, yeah. But nobody's thinking about like how dumb that actually is, because that's really dumb. That's really dumb. And like, here's the thing, the Quran has many contradictions. Well, here's the problem, okay? Like, sure, why not? But it's like with biblical contradictions. What is a contradiction? Is it when two lines say at a surface level opposite things? Because that's a contradiction. But often you can find ways sort of around that, where it's like, oh, well, these aren't contradictions. You misunderstand the context. They're getting at different things. There's contradictions at the level of doctrine and contradictions at the level of the means by which doctrine is expounded. Right? Like, love thy neighbor, but also dash the heads of the children of Babylon against the rock in an earlier book. Well, you recontextualize that one to refer to not literal children, but to da-da-da-da. Or it's like Old Covenant as opposed to New Covenant. The rules changed, I guess, so it works, sort of. And people play around with that. And I'm sure that people do the exact same thing with the Quran, but this argument that, oh, nothing's been preserved like it, nothing is like it at all. It's like, well, what do you mean? Because I gotta tell you, I've read the Quran. It didn't hit me like that. Maybe you didn't read it in Arabic. Okay, sure, why not? I have doubts, and I want to know. I want to hear like an explicit explanation of what is so special about it, and I never hear that. It's always just, oh, it's so different. But it's like, okay. And first of all, how do you know? You read all books, have you? That's my immediate thought. Is like, I've read a lot of books. As far as humans of my age on this earth go, I've read a lot of books. Not as many as some people have, but I've read a decent amount. And I gotta tell you, like, there's a lot of books I haven't read. I somehow doubt that you've read all books and you know this. It's a weird claim. It's just a weird claim on so many levels.
Of Islam made predictions that were so frequent and so precise that no other figure in human history made them.
I mean, Democritus predicted atomic theory. That's pretty good.
For example, he told us that the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire would both fall to the Muslims.
Did he tell you about the colonization of the Middle East by the British and the Americans? Did he give you a warning about that one? I don't think there's actually any verse that says that in the Quran, though. Where does it say that? Let's see here. If we look at Surah, I think it's Surah Al-Rum. I don't believe there is actually anything in there that says the Persians will fall to the Muslims. Even so, it's kind of like, you know that predictive history guy? The guy who like pretends to be in a classroom and he thinks Trump is Jesus. He made the argument that, oh, America will be at war with Iran. And it's like, wow, he predicted the future. But it's like, well, the current president launched missiles at Iran the last time he was in office, and he's been like specifically declaring he wants to go to war with all these other people, you're basically taking the one time, like on a coin toss, oh, will he ever, at some point in his term, engage in military action against Iran? And we're just going to call that like a war. It's like, okay, sure, I guess you've found the Matrix code. It's Hadith, but that's a problem because Hadith are reports of the life of Muhammad. They aren't the Quran. Hadith contextualize the Quran. They're used as like supplementary stuff. They aren't the Quran. So if that's in Hadith, that doesn't count. Sunday, have you read any Hadith? No, I'm just aware of the Hadith. It's a lot of books to read.
Now, according to Barnaby Rogerson, who is a historian, non-Muslim historian, he said that the similitude of the Arabs at that time taking over the Persian and Roman Empire is the same as Eskimos taking over Russia and America.
If the Eskimos had a giant army and lots of money, yes.
Imagine what kind of a wild prediction this is.
Also, you don't call them Eskimos, they're Inuit. Eskimo is a derogatory term.
And this is one of many predictions that obviously I don't have time to expound here. The question is, what does atheism have to offer?
Nothing? It's not supposed to offer anything?
Atheism has no explanatory force whatsoever.
Eskimos is an archaic term referring to Inuit. It means like, what does it mean originally? It's generally considered derogatory. It's not like on par with the N-word, but it's like it's not good. It means like eaters of raw meat, which can have connotations. Wait, hang on. Or it could also mean netters of snowshoes. Apparently, according to AI, so don't trust that. But basically, they took like a word from Inuit language and just used it to apply to them. It's kind of like with the Taino, actually, the people that, you know, Columbus genocided. The word Taino is not the name for the people. The word Taino is the name for a class within those tribes. But they identified themselves, I guess, as Taino, so they just called them all Taino. But like Taino just referred to like what we would call like upper crust, right? They were like sort of leadership caste, essentially.
Atheism is a negation.
Yes, what is your opinion on ontological monism? Well, I mean, I am a monist, but I think to question whether or not like everything is mind or matter, I find that kind of silly because the mind or matter distinction only makes sense under conditions of dualism. Like, when you actually like break it down, like what is the difference between mind and matter? Literally nothing, because they refer to the same stuff. Generally, when people say, oh, everything is mind as opposed to everything being matter, the only thing they're adding is, oh, I think that there is some kind of like cognitive basis somehow for the existence of stuff or something analogous to that, such that we can have hope for like mystical woo-woo stuff again. And that really seems to be the move. Which, by the way, is not actually to preclude really strange stuff. But the point is, if you're arriving there by that path, you're essentially being a materialist, just deluding yourself, because you're just asserting that, oh, actually, stuff has magical properties, so all of these religious beliefs I have, oh, they're plausible still, sure, why not? And it's just like, it's obviously based on fear and anxiety, and it's just a silly line of argumentation.
Atheism has no ontological status.
Atheism is no, but I mean it exists. What do you mean atheism has no ontological status?
Atheism cannot describe or explain morality, rationality, consciousness.
Sure it can. Does it all the time. I mean, how do you explain it? Like, think about this for a second. How do you explain it? Oh, consciousness is accounted for by there being soul stuff inside people. Okay, what's that? What's special about that? How does that work? That seems to work in time. It seems to respond to things in time. It seems to respond to stimuli that are sourced in the world. So you have this other material that is interacting with the physical substrate of the material plane, and it's different somehow. And that's the explanation, is just that it's different somehow? That's lame. That doesn't explain anything. You just deferred the argument somewhere else. You just basically said, well, I can't explain it, but I'm putting a golden wreath around my inability to explain this. This is special. This is a special not explained thing. Okay? Cool. You didn't explain anything. But moreover, you're also still... You're still deploying the same naive mechanistic understanding of rationality, consciousness, and morality that like a really crude, vulgar atheist would posit. You're just pretending that it glows in the dark. And that's not very compelling, I think.
Atheism brings nothing to the table. With that, I conclude with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
That was a lame argument. That was really lame. That was really bad. This is actually deeply modernistic and post-enlightenment argumentation on Mr. Hijab's side. I mean, fundamentalism generally is a modern phenomena. If you look, for example, at Islamic philosophy, like back to like Al-Farabi and so on and so forth, like you will find really interesting stuff. You'll see a lot of people who are engaging like really strongly with actually, what did they engage? They engaged a lot with Plato. You'll see a lot more was it Plato or Aristotle? Oh man, I'm losing it. I'm completely losing it. A lot of like our access to like ancient Greek texts, like for example, stuff that like Thomas Aquinas was relying upon, he got access to because after the Reconquista, they had libraries of Arabic translations of Aristotle. Ironically, given the fact that some of Aquinas' philosophy was canonized by the Catholic Church, this means that Islamic texts are actually canon indirectly to Catholic doctrine, but it was Aristotle. Yeah, no, they lost a lot of Plato. A lot of Islamic philosophy didn't have access to a lot of, I think it was a lot of Plato for a long while. I can't quite remember. There's a really good book by Remy Brague called The Law of God. It has a big digression on this, and I want to reread that so I get that down again. Sonny, do you think hijab rhetoric was good? No, I think his delivery was good, but his rhetoric was pretty weak. Mostly because it laid bare the poverty of the argument on the surface, and he didn't mystify it enough. So someone like Bernardo Kastrup, for example, does the same thing, but he's better at it. Because he cloaks it in language that's very impenetrable to people who are not sort of up on philosophy of mind or don't have any acquaintance with like physics lingo. So like the physics lingo stuff, that's difficult for me. I am not a physicist. I have no background in physics. I recognize enough stuff because I watch people who argue about physics online, specifically around like the Sabine Hossenfelder stuff. But like I can penetrate it, but like I can understand why someone would be taken in by that, especially since like he's a lot of people's first exposure to stuff that you would get sort of out of like a Bergson sort of Deleuze Klosowski kind of like angle, or like out of like some of the phenomenologists or whatever. Like you will find stuff in there that's sort of like a watered down dumb version of that. But if this is your first exposure to it, it's like, really, that's on the table, that's a possibility. It's like, yeah. I don't think Hijab's rhetoric was good though. I think his delivery was strong. Like he exuded confidence. He's got a great voice. He had great presence. I think his argument amounted to memes, like fundamentalist memes. This is not great. If you've read philosophy, you can spot surface level apology. That is not actually a guarantee, friendo.
Same question? And then could you restate the question for me?
So the question is, the role between Western secularism and Islamic traditions.
Wah, 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 wah.
Which moral system is produced from the
Wah, 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 wah. Wah.
So I would say that secularism, as the foundation for, at the very least, the system of governance that we have, and the way that our laws and the way that we dictate how we conduct ourselves, I think is superior to any individual religious system. Because,
by the way, he's in court because he was sharing intimate material with a minor. Just by the by, that's who's making this argument right now.
it allows for all these different viewpoints to come together. I think that it is no coincidence that we are in a relatively secularly governed country where we have the ability for somebody to speak on their religion, and they can say what they want about it, they can have their beliefs about it, and I have the ability, or anybody else here has the ability, to disagree with that particular viewpoint, but there's still room in society for that viewpoint. I would say that one of the foundational errors, or one of the foundational mistakes, or
Hey, weren't you and your posse all completely gung-ho about the massacre of Palestinians on the basis of their religion? I vaguely remember stuff being floated about that.
incompatibilities that the more fundamentalist approach or the more hardcore approach to religion has led to is the intolerance in certain societies of other types of beliefs. So whether that is the way that you conduct yourself and how you do comedy or speech, whether that's the way...
By the way, guys, who invited this clown? Like seriously, who's the asshole who invited this guy to represent secularism? Like, just think about like the mindset of the dumb Oxford student who's like, hey, you know who we should get? You know who we should get? We should get Stephen Bennell. I'm sure he's got time in between his court appearances. Like, imagine, just you know what we. There's a bunch of fundamentalists coming to the Oxford Union. They want to debate about how science is dumb, okay? Epstein talks to a lot of scientists. Let's get him there. The Oxford Union is a joke, by the way. just so you know. The Oxford Union is not Oxford University. It's a debate club. It's been around for a while. But basically they just pull celebrities. So any shithead who manages to get attention can get to the Oxford Union. That's the condition. Which is why everybody who's there is a shithead, because actual scholars, generally speaking, know the value of not drawing attention to yourself unless you have something to say.
Way that you set up your particular neighborhoods, whether that's the types of laws that you pass to allow freedoms for other people in society, especially people that have traditionally been oppressed by systems of governance. Could be different types of minority figures. It could be...
No, it's not part of the university. Oxford Union, it's literally just a debate club. It used to be called what was it called originally? It was the yeah, it was originally the United Debating Society. It's literally just a club. It's not the university. Like, if you think that like being a part of Oxford has anything to do with being in the Oxford Union, it's not. But that title confuses people because it's like, oh, it's the Oxford Union. That must be like, oh, this is like a big prestigious. It's not. This is like, this is dark academia Joe Rogan. Okay, that's what this is, or Pierce Morgan rather. Yes, what is your opinion on nihilism? That life is meaningless. That we are just some illusions made by arrangement of atoms. I think it sucks and it's dumb.
Women, it could be people of LGBT status. I think that the more secularized society is superior because it creates space for all of those people to exist together in a system that is functional.
And more importantly, it allows you to prey on the young and naive ones so that you can add to your grotesque, gigantic collection of secret recordings of intimate encounters.
I think that there is some conversation to be had about the nature of existence. I do think that it's nice that religion gives us easy answers and all of our big branches of philosophy. You don't have to do much ethics, much metaphysics.
Hey, remember when he was playing footsie with Christianity? And he was like reading C.S. Lewis on stream? Because that was the surest way he could see to getting into Lauren Southern, a white nationalist's pants. Anyone remember that? I'm just saying, I remember that. When I see this argument being made at the Oxford Union, I remember that interaction.
Much epistemology.
I guess right now, I guess at the moment, because he's currently sleeping with a Nazi, it's a little bit easier for him to make this argument at this point in time.
When it comes to figuring your religious beliefs, because all the answers are kind of there for you, and maybe that allows you to explore other things in life. But when it comes time to...
By the way, just FYI, and this is... I hate that I'm having to make this argument because I didn't like this Muhammad hijab guy's arguments at all. There is absolutely no incompatibility whatsoever with religious pluralism and Islamic culture. Just to be clear, like there are clear cases of this. Muhammad hijab is a crazy person. these are people who are playing the same game as Christian fundamentalists. They're deeply insecure. They are trying to assert cultural power to avoid having to ask hard questions that make them deeply insecure in their existence. But there are also a lot of Muslims who don't. And there are a lot of Muslims historically who don't. And they carried on like long correspondences and debates with like Christians and atheists and so on and so forth. Like this is a thing. If you go to university and you like study the history of like philosophical thought in like ancient medieval times and even in like relatively recent modern times, a little bit harder these days for obvious reasons. There's a bit of tension there. But you will find like very, very serious stuff. And you will find stuff today, by the way. There's a lot of like very serious philosophers and so on and so forth that actually do engage very positively in a secular context. There isn't a contradiction here. When you see the deployment of Islamic ethics and aesthetics as things that restrict the range of permissible stuff in law, for example, in the manner in which it's done in like Iran. These are modern innovations. There are still like a lot of like Islamic philosophers today, or philosophers and theorists are sort of operating in that realm, who are like, this isn't even possible. You can't actually have a state run according to these principles. The state itself is an authoritarian structure that overrides with the role of religion in society. It contests it. It's the absorption in some keys of Islamic culture by capitalism, for example. There's a great book called The Impossible State by Wael Halak, which is specifically about the that debate in the context of Iran, right?
Arguing those things to other religious people. The last I checked, I don't think that Islam or Christianity or Judaism have settled their disagreements between who is the one true religion, Abrahamically, or any of the other number of religions
Abrahamically
people choose from. So I think that in terms of societal progression, in terms of the moral progress you could say that we've seen as a society, I think that a larger secular umbrella has allowed this to happen.
Hey, do you know why it's called secularism, by the way? Do you know why it's called secularism, just to be clear? It used to refer to specific property holdings by the church. Stuff that is in temporal human time as opposed to stuff that is in divine time. It is literally a religious offshoot. What is the purview of the church in terms that are germane to the church? So does secularism come from liberalism? Neither. Like secularism as a thing is like a post hoc label for a general tendency to separate the authority of the church from the authority of the magistrate, from like the police and the governor and whatnot, right? Yeah, exactly. It's a state of being unrelated to or neutral in regard to religion, yeah. No, secularism is a medieval thing. Secularism, anything with ism, generally speaking, calm down, Stephen, not that. Anything with ism in the title generally refers to something modern, because we're talking in modern ideological terms. They didn't really talk in those terms a few hundred years ago, right?
I don't think it is a coincidence that people find themselves moving more, and we'll talk about immigration later, to these more Western secularized societies, because these societies have such specific carve-outs for different types of beliefs and different types of religions to exist and to express themselves. And I think that having...
Didn't get the joke explained? No.
These countries change back to regress into a more religious state, into a more fundamentalist state, where all of us are required to have a particular religious belief, I think would be a regression in the, I would say, philosophical progress that we've made as a society, or as multiple societies, because...
I've gone over Stephen's philosophical notes before. I don't think he's caught up with us yet.
Yeah, the idea of being able to enforce your religious ideology or your dogma on some particular...
How many of Plato's writings have been lost? I don't think very many. In fact, I think we have a lot. We have a lot of Plato. There are some dialogues that are incomplete. Like I think in the Laws, for example, there are parts that are trailed off and missing, but we have a lot.
A group of people, I think is an idea that was tried in the past and hasn't produced the societies that have the most flourishing today, which I would say are the ones that are more secular and do allow for more different points of view.
Sunday, has Stephen ever talked about his philosophical mentor? Who would that be? If he has a philosophical mentor, he needs to get his money back.
Well, I mean, Destiny mentions that secularism is superior to religion.
Oh, is the beatdown coming?
But secularism couldn't exist without it.
That's true, actually.
Because secularism is, by definition, a separation between church and state.
Yep.
So how can you have secularism without the church?
He's right. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. He's aware of that. A lot of people don't get that one. That's pretty good.
You would just have something else. So it can't be superior to it because it incorporates it into its worldview.
Oh, that's actually really good. That's actually really well put. That's actually pretty good. You're going to disappoint me later. You already said some really dumb stuff, but that's pretty good.
But the question really is, what's the objective basis for all of his claims? He mentioned LGBT and minority, this, that, and the other. The question is, as an atheist who believes that we are essentially atoms whizzing around, this is the physicalist, this is the materialist assumption.
It's the mechanist assumption. Common misunderstanding. There is a reductive physicalism that reduces everything to a mechanism of like little atoms whizzing around, bumping into each other. That's not actually the consensus of physicists, to my layman's understanding, and that's certainly not the consensus among materialist philosophers, which actually regard the reduction of matter to individual particles as having their own causal powers, distinct from one another, floating with an infinite gulf between them, so that they are actually like identifiable singularities separate from each other, as being actually a product of the prejudices of the way our organism perceives the world. We need to identify stuff based on its tactility. Therefore, we separate objects in the world from each other in our cognition such that we can figure out how to grasp them. But actually, there isn't a distinction between objects. And when we apply that down to the level of the atom, which, by the way, is not a little solid thing. It's not a thing. Like, that's the tricky part about it. The atom isn't a thing. No one looked under a microscope. Parche the absurd Alex O'Connor. Nobody looked under a microscope and saw, oh, look, there's a tiny little ball down there. It's like, oh, damn, I'm made of those things? It's like, no, that didn't happen. Atoms are not even spherical, by the way. What are you talking about? They're not spherical. I saw the picture in the science textbook in high school. But that's not materialism. Materialism, specifically, is the removal of there being an outer layer of some kind of like essential substance that governs the forms on the material substrate that we postulate is in common between all things in this universe. Okay? That's it. It's the removal of essence. It's not even the removal of quote-unquote spirit or something like that. It's the removal of essence, of something totally apart that goes down onto it. Here's an example. Henri Bergson is a dualist materialist. How does that work? Well, he thinks at some level there are different, I guess you could say there are different kinds of vibrations, and therefore there are two different things stemming from the same material that then intersect and then interact in a particular kind of way, giving rise to phenomena, giving rise to like action in the world. And then the solid stuff that makes up the persistent structure of the world is sort of the trail left in its wake. Very weird stuff. Highly recommend reading him. He's very good. He'll change the way you think about a lot of things. I don't buy his conclusions on a lot of stuff. But leaving that aside, that's a materialist point of view. When you look at someone like Karl Marx, is he asserting? No, it's impossible that there exists anything that sort of like approximates to the weird mystical stuff that religious people talks about. No, he doesn't make such assertions. He argues that in terms of our understanding of the stuff around us and what we've seen and so on and so forth, we need to invoke the historical relations between things, between this stuff, and not, oh, well, this had this property because this glowing metaphysical ball at some higher plane of existence shone down upon it and shot down its properties to it like a laser. It's like, no. Not to say that's impossible, but in terms of like as a methodology for how we approach history, for how we approach our understanding of how humans relate to each other, we look at the material. What is the material? It's the physical stuff around us. This the stuff around us. We see its properties, we see how it works, and we base our judgments about how this stuff works off of the stuff we've observed about it. It's actually really simple.
How can you get from that to objective morality in the first place? How can you ascertain that liberalism is the superior ideology from first principles, from a scientific or mathematical perspective? You can't do that. It's not possible because Kant couldn't do that.
And his name's Kant. If he can't do that, then nobody can.
Is the superior ideology from first principles, from a scientific or
I want to hear this, because this could actually get into interesting territory.
mathematical perspective. You can't do that. It's not possible because Kant couldn't do that, because J.S. Mill couldn't do that.
Well, I don't think... Who cares if John Stuart Mill couldn't do that? John Stuart Mill... This is not John Stuart Mill's wheelhouse.
Because greater people than me and you couldn't do that. Therefore, you won't be able to do that.
You don't know. You could be talking to the next Einstein, my dude. You don't know that. You're at the Oxford Union. There could be somebody smart there. You don't know.
Secondly, I will say this. I mean, he mentioned something about intolerance, which we'll come to in a second. But he mentioned...
Kant did through the categorical imperative? Not really. Like, the category... Here's the thing. People, like, mistake the categorical imperative for something else. The category... Morality for Kant is not objective. There's an objective directionality towards what is considered the moral, namely that which is absolutely whatever is like the most absolutely generalizable, right? So like the main part of Kant is that the assertion, just to put it in completely different terms, the assertion that there is a universal directive for action is always going to be specific to the kinds of action that are available to a particularity. Human beings only have a limited range of things that we can do with our bodily structures. Therefore, like, any moral duty is any like moral axiom that specifies those things is not universal. It's specific to us. Kant's in a place where he's actually talking about the possibility of other life forms. He's one of the earliest philosophers who talks about, like, in a serious key. Well, not one of the earliest, but he's one of the ones who starts talking about, like, life on other spheres. Because Kant, again, like, in his Critique of Pure Reason, he is specifically limiting human cognition to the realm of what concerns us as organisms, concerns our navigation of the world. Scholastics and such will postulate that we can get at, through reason, like, the nature of God and the nature of time and the nature of freedom and the nature of spirit and so on and so forth. Kant's fundamental point is, well, hang on, that would require you to get behind the conditions of your thought and experience. You see things in space. You distinguish concepts even in your imagination, spatially. The very notion of a concept refers to the delineation. Literally, we talk about the definition of a concept between things as if drawn as shapes on a piece of paper. And then you can only think in terms of a sequence of thoughts. One thought leads to the next, leads to the next, leads to conclusion. So you can't get to, like, the nature of time or God or whatever, because your reason is conditioned by stuff that's at a lower level. You can't capture that with those things. You're asserting a chimerical notion, right?
And I was very surprised when I, to be honest with you, heard this. He mentions intolerance. Let's go to this straight away, actually.
Ooh.
This is a man who supports a genocide.
Nice. He's going there. Good. He's going there.
This is a man who was going to the IDF, telling the IDF that, you know, when you're doing your atrocities, make sure you hide them and don't take pictures of them. You're going to talk to us about...
You literally did that, by the way. Ironically, he did this on camera. Brilliant. Brilliant move.
You're going to talk to us about this? You're going to be sanctimonious and talk about minority rights?
I love that he has this voice for this. It's such a good voice for this. All right, guys. It's time for the beatdown.
What minorities are you talking about? The minorities that you prefer, that the white man prefers.
Ooh.
That the colonialists prefer. That's the minorities that you're... When it comes to the Palestinians, no, kill them. You're actually telling people to kill them. This is absolutely diabolical. And with that, I will conclude, and you can respond.
Nice. Oh, you know what? Fuck it. Everything else beside, I like this guy right now. I like this guy right now. I will not like him for other things, I guarantee you. But right now I like this guy. By the way, all those absolute cowards who have talked to Destiny in the last year and didn't do this and didn't do that, that is so good. Man.
There are, some 2 billion Muslims, I think, on the planet.
What's a few 100,000?
For all the talk I hear of Islam coming from one book, from one word that is unchanged and unaltered, I look to the Palestinian situation and I wonder, where is Islam, or where are the Muslims?
Wow. Wow. That was the line, huh, Steve? That was the strategy. Who said this guy was intelligent? I can't think of a worse response. I cannot think of a dumber way to reply to that. At this point, by the way, the correct answer is no, the genocide is absolutely horrible. And then you start waffling on about October 7th. That's what you do if you're Stephen and you have no soul. The actual correct response is TOS, but that's what you do. That was the dumbest reply I think I have ever seen. Period. Full stop. Where are the Muslims? Well, let's just do the math, Stephen. How many neighboring countries has Israel fired missiles at in the last year? Like, I'm sorry. They're over there, also in the crosshairs, not being funded with immense amounts of ordnance by the most powerful country on earth. That's where they are. Or their leadership is being corrupted by the most powerful country on earth, or has been corrupted by the most powerful country on earth, and are in cahoots with them. Saudi Arabia, for example. You want to hear his response? Yeah, sure, why not? Let's just breathe it in, okay? Let's hear the last thing he says. And then let's do this again.
Who was going to the... This is a man who supports a genocide. This is a man who was going to the IDF, telling the IDF that, you know, when you're doing your atrocities, make sure you hide them and don't take pictures of them. You're going to talk to us about this? You're going to be sanctimonious and talk about minority rights? What minorities are you talking about? The minorities that you prefer, that the white man prefers.
Oh, if even... Unfortunately, if even.
That the colonialists prefer. That's the minorities that you're...
I can't stress this enough. Stephen continued to go on his tour that was trailing Charlie Kirk. And he brought along someone who is famous as being a Nazi who harasses people in public and calls them racial slurs and sexually harasses them. That's who he, like, brought along for that. Like, this person is insane. Like, this person is, just evil to a point I don't think people can comprehend. Like, I actually have trouble, like, categorizing this human. Like, it's not... It's like, I end up using words like satanic. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Oh no, this Nazi is a woman. That would not have been likely, Minas. Like, the character at a moral level of Destiny, of Stephen Bennell, I would have to liken to the way like the most cartoonish depictions of the Nazi leadership are in some of the more sensational histories of the Third Reich. That's the level it's at, where it's like this person is perverse in ways that normal human beings have trouble cognizing. Sonny, do you think he's even LARPing as a liberal? I don't think he is anything. I don't think there is anything there. I think of him as like a zombie type thing. Like there's, and it's not because that's the case, because it's probably not the case. It's that when I try to like put myself into his shoes, when I try to like imagine the mindset of somebody like that, I have to subtract so much of myself that there's nothing left. Like it's like there's an existential void. Like there's a thing missing.
Comes to the Palestinians, no, kill them. You're actually telling people to kill them. This is absolutely diabolical.
It's a sex golem. That's actually really good. That's a good way to put. I like that. That's a good line.
And with that, I will conclude. And you can.
Although you could pronounce it golem as well, and you'd probably be accurate too.
Respond.
Okay. He's just been told you supported genocide. You were diabolical. Your advocacy for minority rights is entirely conditioned based on white supremacy, which I think is actually absolutely true. All of the people. Have you noticed this? All the people who have arisen to the level of being an actual friend of Stephen have been white nationalists. I think basically across the board. I think the sole exception is ABBA, and I can't actually think of anybody else really. I think all of the people who have been like friends and not just peons, not just minions, they've been white nationalists. They've been like Nick Fuentes, Lauren Southern, this empath Chan person. Like that's who they've been. I don't think Lonerbox is a friend. Lonerbox is a minion. Lonerbox is a minion. Lonerbox is in minion category. Erudite is in minion category. They aren't anything. They're not anything. Like they don't have any like core directionality. They are literally just there to feed off of his clout. They don't have any substance.
There are, some 2 billion Muslims, I think, on the planet. For all the talk I hear of Islam coming from one book, from one word that is unchanged and unaltered, I look to the Palestinian situation and I wonder, where is Islam? Or
tell me, where was Gondorabad when the West Wing fell, or something like that? Westfold? It was the Westfold, not the West Wing. West Wing something else.
where are the Muslims? The idea that there is some foundational religion here that all of these different people of the same belief system buy into enough to actually stand up for and defend and support their fellow Muslim brother doesn't seem to be there.
Wow. Yeah, well, I may support a genocide, but have you considered? Like, that is insane. That is insane. Like, imagine like being called out for defending a genocide, and your response is, well, I don't see other minorities coming in to save them. If you watch this person and you think he's smart, you're gone. There is no hope for you. There is no hope for you. Okay, menial labor. That's your appropriate lot. There's no point to you using this part of your body.
So one of the most fatal flaws that I find people who are religious commit is this flaw of thinking they stand on firmer ground than they actually do. The idea that they're...
Wow. And this on the basis of what? That the most well-funded fascistic army in the Middle East isn't being overrun by a bunch of what? With what? What are they going to do? Just to be clear, the IDF is by and large destroying Gaza from the air. There are boots on the ground, but they are timid and terrified, and they rely on drones and they rely on missiles and bombs. It's a cowardly army. The entire thing is like it's a naked land grab by people who are essentially bulldozing on a massive scale. And also doing this illegally in the West Bank as well. Not that legality really matters here, does it? What a disgusting excuse for a life form.
Is one holistic unified view of Islam is probably a view that every individual Muslim would tell you, but maybe not all of them would agree on. I think the same can be said for Christianity. The same can be said for probably any major religion. We can talk about what
like the delusion here is that he thinks that he goes up and says this, that this has like wide reception. Everybody agrees with it. This is not compelling. People hate this. Atheists hate this.
type of
Isn't his argument here basically you can't stop us? I mean, it's the spirit of the argument.
minorities that we prefer, but I mean, if you just take a glance at any Western society, you can see that the incorporation of different groups of people into these societies is much better, and the net is cast much wider than it is in any comparable societies, I would say, in the Middle East or North Africa region.
Yeah, why do you think that is, dipshit? Really? That's what you got? Well, have you considered these places that were, just man. Okay, whenever you were talking about, and here's the thing, by the way, as a non-Muslim, whenever you are talking about any of these places as if there is civilizational continuity, uninterrupted, as if you're simply talking about, oh, this is just how these places developed, it behooves you to do a quick Google search in advance and make sure that you're not talking about a place that was serially colonized and brutalized by the French, the British, and who else? Italians?
Okay.
Spain? Like, you're not talking about... You're talking about you. The civilization you're comparing it favorably to was with the thing that made it that.
He says, where are the Muslims? That's a good question, and I agree with him on that, actually. But there's a distinction to be made between Muslims and Islam. The discussion here is not about Muslims. It's about...
Oh, that's lame. Pin him on the other stuff. Don't worry about that. Doesn't matter. Call him out for what a disgusting pivot that was. Don't go defending. You don't need to defend this anymore. The stakes have changed. This is why I told you it was going to disappoint me. This is like the fundamentalist thing. It's the actual concern is not human life. It's not morality. It's not anything of that sort. It's defend the promise that you are clinging to of eternal life after death. Because this is fundamentally an existential fear cult. I'm sorry to say it. That's the case. Fundamentalists generally governed by fear. That's why the rhetoric can be bad. But yeah, he took the most obvious bait in the world. Just god damn it.
About Islam. That's the first thing.
Okay.
And then he says, okay, well, Western countries are doing a good job on minorities. I mean, liberalism coexisted with colonialism.
Okay. Well, we're bringing it back.
You must understand this. You cannot look at this time in history and not realize that J.S. Mill was somebody who was actually advising his government.
J.S. Mill isn't the... Stop bringing up J.S. Mill. Everybody brings up J.S. Mill because they make you read J.S. Mill in, like, the beginning of political science in college. Stop bringing up J.S. Mill. It doesn't matter. Read a book on the history of colonialism. There's a lot more than just J.S. Mill. Let him cook. Fine, I'll let him cook. How
to use racism and supremacy against the colonial empire, against members of the colonial empire, the colonies. So there has been a relationship between racism on the one hand and colonialism on the other, and it's very well known. Look what happened to India. This is a really bad argument. But the question is not about liberalism. It's about atheism, and there is no necessary connection between atheism and liberalism. You can be an atheist communist. You can be an atheist Nazi. You can be an atheist Zionist, as you are.
You should have. And here we have someone who's all three. That's what you should have done.
As you are. He's importing liberalism into the discussion to save atheism. Sorry to say, just as, because he's open about this open relationship stuff, just as he imports other men to help with his conjugal duties.
Look, there are so many angles you could do with that. It works rhetorically, but like, he's in court right now. You're not going to go to that maybe he does. But like, this is, first of all, he doesn't. He's divorced now. But secondly, like, really? We're importing conjugal duties into the discussion. I don't find that very compelling. You got to give him that Sunday. Oh no, rhetorically it's very good. The problem though is that like it's only good if A, you hate Stephen, or B, you're someone who is disgusted by the idea of open relationships. So it doesn't have any cross-sell like purchase. So it's not taking territory, right? I want him to take territory. I want him to conquer. That's not that. That's like fireworks at the wall, you know?
You have no business talking about liberalism.
That doesn't follow. I know a lot of people are very excited about people calling Stephen a cuck, but that doesn't follow. That doesn't work. Like, there isn't an intrinsic monogamous principle inherent in liberalism. It doesn't connect. So it's not very good. Like, you know, it emasculates him in front of a particular audience, but that audience already wasn't on his side. So it doesn't work.
You have no business talking about liberalism. We're not talking about liberalism. Liberalism is a philosophy that's not on the debate card today. We are talking about atheism. Tell me how you can get to objective morality from atheism. Tell me how you can get to atoms whizzing around, carbon, which we are, from is to ought, as David Hume would put it. Otherwise, you'd be doing the naturalistic fallacy. If you can't do that, then be a man. It's going to be very hard, sorry to say, for you. Very hard.
See, it's not great. It's not great. It's like, you need to follow that. He needed to dig into the genocide part. He needed to dig into that and then do these digs. Because then you've earned some, like, punching room. But he hasn't done that. So that's not very good. Like, people who are already on this guy's side, they're going to laugh, right? Hell, even I would laugh if I was in the audience. But would it do anything to change my position? Would it change my feeling about anybody? No. It's sympathetic to it, but it's not winning anything. Does he even know the Izzat fallacy? Well, it's not the Izzat fallacy. The point is just that you can't derive an is from a not, right? The naturalistic fallacy is not the Izzat thing. The naturalistic fallacy is essentially arguing that because something occurs in nature, then therefore it's like a duty, right? So you get into weird territory where it's like, well, animals eat their young. That occurs in nature. Animals engage in same-sex relations, like non-human animals. That occurs in nature. And now you get into weird contradictions that way. But also, it's the response to the naturalistic fallacy is, show me how you actually derive a duty, like an ethical obligation, from the bare fact that such and such a thing is observed. And you don't, because they're of different kinds, right? They aren't the same kind of thing.
Be a man and say, I concede the debate. I give up. I throw the white towel. Although maybe you'd be using that white towel for
See,
other
like,
things,
it's just like, yeah, we get it. He's kind of gay. Who cares? This isn't like you're burning your credibility here. Like, this makes him look stupid and petty. Like, we're not targeted anymore. Now we're just like, oh, I got a laugh from the sexual jokes. I'm gonna do more of that. It's bad. He cares. They care a lot about that. No, it's It's just very weak. And I'm just telling you right now, like, most people who watch this, who are serious and aren't just out to watch Stephen get burned, like the average person, is not convinced by this. In fact, they see homophobe. Because the average person, to be clear, isn't aware of stuff that Stephen has said in the real world. This interaction, like, we are terminally online. We are weirdos in terms of how people outside see this stuff. And you need to understand this. Normal people are broadly not aware of the fact that Stephen is in court right now. They're not aware of the stuff that he said online. They're not aware of this. He made the one joke. He should have moved on. The fact that he's hammering in on this makes him look, okay, now it just sounds like you're weird about, like, sexual diversity. Now it just sounds like you got some weird ideas about, like, what's like the notion of conjugal duties, for example. Most people who are watching this debate probably not going to be like, ugh, you know? He's in court, yeah. Remember, he shared intimate videos without people's consent.
If you can't do that, honestly, it's done. The debate is finished. And that's all I have to say.
Wah, 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 wah.
So I think at the end of the day, you know, you can talk about the atoms whizzing by, we can talk about the different ways that we think we've proven our God. But again, there's been no progress made on this conversation in the thousands of years that people have debated religion. I think that one of the fatal flaws, again, of religious people is that they stand on, or they think they stand on firmer ground than they actually do. You say that we're not talking about Muslims, we're just talking about Islam. Different people have different interpretations of what Islam means. Some people might think that marriage is between one man and a woman who want to spend the rest of their life together. Other people might believe that marriage is a thing that you solicit to a woman to engage in sex with her and then leave her immediately after. Other people have different views on that. It just depends on how you live your life. The great thing
I didn't realize Destiny was that kind of Muslim.
about liberal societies is you're able to practice all of these things however you want in a way that won't involve you getting executed for it. When it comes to deciding, you know, whether a society can have a secular foundation, you know, you can have this conversation of, well, philosophically, you can't connect A to B and B to C and C to D and everything else, but somehow secular societies seem to exist. It's also funny to try to tie liberalism together in with this concept of imperialism when people have been doing imperialism far before the concept of liberalism even existed.
Imperialism isn't the existence of empire. Imperialism is a particular mode of specifically European-style states as an ideological and material strategy. Like, the Persian Empire wasn't engaging in imperialism. The Persian Empire was an empire. Britain, by contrast, engages in imperialism, i.e., it expands its territories in a manner comparable to what the Persian Empire did say, but does so primarily through business and private enterprise and through resource extraction. Like, it's not the same thing. These are different. Imperialism incorporates the places it conquers into a tribute relationship. Imperialism sets up colonies as if the empire was just a giant state. Liberalism did start colonialism, though? No, liberalism emerged. It's a little bit coeval with imperialism. Liberalism really starts during the English Civil War with the writings of people like Thomas Hobbes, and it needs to be said, like, England was already colonizing America by that point. Thomas Hobbes was actually briefly a member of the Virginia Company, as an example. You saw Pocahontas? That place. Thomas Hobbes was alive then. He was one of the he was one of its members in England. So, like, this isn't wrong if he's going to say that liberalism is actually, because here's the point. Imperialism does not predate liberalism by that much. Liberalism is the intellectual product of imperialism. It is imperialism spiritualized, if you will. That's what liberalism is. Liberalism is the political ideology that takes for granted the human relations that result from imperialism. Does that make sense? He has no idea what he's talking about. I seem to remember the caliphate spreading across. Okay. But question for you though: do you remember the English spreading across of the British Isles and taking the land from the Irish and the Scottish? Do you remember that? Do you remember how the original name for the colonists, the planters, was actually applied locally as they planted on originally Irish land? No, I don't think you do remember that. Because actually, what we call imperialism, the colonization of the world, took place first where those colonizing states were. Because states as such don't exist like that. When you say the Persian Empire spread, that's actually a little bit of a misnomer, because there wasn't strictly speaking a Persian Empire. There was a king who had an empire that became identified with Persia over time. But when, for example, you read Thucydides, and you read about the actual, engagement, for example, of the Persian Empire with the Greeks, do they call them the Persian Empire? They call them the Medians, or the king. Why? Because the Medians were a particular group that was engaging in essentially a relationships of subterfuge with the Greek polises, the Greek city-states. And they identified the empire with the rule of the king, not with some empire of Persia, with the command structure. Imperialism is when you take the state as the king, right?
Seem to remember caliphate spreading across huge portions of the world, and they didn't need any liberalism to do that. They seem to do that just fine along with Islam. Islam has specific categories of people that aren't part of the main body of the Muslim population. So this idea that you can't have marginalized people in any type of system, I think is a bit silly. The idea that Islam provides
nobody says that.
Some special protection or some special way to run a society that would be superior in terms of producing better outcomes for the people involved. Where are those countries? That would be my big question.
Well, they're all colonized and brutalized by the liberal countries, Stephen. I can't think of here's a better question. Name for me an example, Stephen, of such a country that wasn't ravaged by the colonizing powers. Name one.
You know, if we were to argue about the successes of liberalism, I mean, I could point to Muslims existing in a liberal country today with the ability to argue for their Muslim countries. How many Muslim countries can I go to and find liberals arguing the same thing? I think that the idea of free speech, open debate, the ability to own private property, to start a business you want, and to practice whatever religion you want, I think is a special thing that liberal societies have created. And I challenged the opposing speaker to tell me, what are these model Arab societies? What are these model Muslim societies? What are these modern Islamic societies, or these model Islamic societies that you would want us to look more like than any of the countries in the West that you found appropriate to live in?
Sure.
Wah.
Well, that was a bit of a mouthful, Bonelli. But you're going to have to swallow your pride and concede the debate, because actually, he has not been able to connect the dots, unfortunately, for himself.
Okay.
This is a debate about Islam and atheism, not Islam and liberalism, okay? He is assuming a liberal framework. Liberalism does not necessarily connect with atheism.
Well, liberalism is actually like Christian in its origins. That's the grand irony of this. So I just he needs to pin him more on the genocide stuff. If he tries to bring it back to topic, that's a mistake, because Stephen, in a masterful stroke, has actually brought the debate to an area where he will lose indefinitively morally at every single level. Bringing this back to atheism, Islam, is a big mistake. Big mistake. What I would do, if I were in his position, is I would hammer on the cultural argument, because you can do that very effectively here. And then in the question period, I would talk about atheism and Islam. You get the same point across, but you've completely cut the legs out from your opponent. If, however, he keeps bringing up like sexual stuff, it's a loss. Like I'm sorry, I know people are really hungry to see Stephen get beat, and he did take a couple licks early on, but it won't matter.
In any way whatsoever. Itself, liberalism needs proof and justification for its own truth, which we can do in maybe another debate. I don't think you're going to be wanting to do any other debates after this.
Oh, that's a little cringe.
But the fact of the matter is this. He says Muslim countries, that's his big question. Where are the Muslim countries? I agree with you. Muslim countries are not following Islam. This is the answer to your question. Well,
actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that. What's actually happening is that Muslim countries are ruled by people with money. People with money who are integrated into the capitalist network that spans the globe, and therefore they are complicit with rulers in the United States, with rulers in the UK, with rulers in all over the place. Why? Because they have personal interests that do not align with the interests of the religion they set out as the rule for their state, and they don't actually personally care about Palestinians, and in fact, they don't want the Palestinians in their territory because you don't want a giant population of poor people that's rife with crime and international criminal interactions that will invite intervention by the United States and by Israel on your own soil. That's what happened with Lebanon multiple times. So it's like,
they are not following.
Hey, I didn't press anything. Oh, my armrest did. That's the problem. When you look, for example, at statistics about support for Palestinians, it's very high in Muslim countries. The leaders of those Muslim countries don't agree. That's the problem. This is not a matter of like Muslims being unfaithful to one another. This is a matter of capitalism. This is a matter of class interest. The Muslims who care are of a lower class. They are not capitalists. The Muslims who don't care are capitalists. Yeah, but Sunday, have you considered that you wouldn't have a debate on a topic you have no information on? You have to set the strategy for Stephen. I read a Wikipedia article once, Benel. Yeah, but you don't need to read a lot to do this. This is an easy debate, guys. You don't need to read a lot for this. Like you legitimately, an undergraduate could do this pretty well, I think. If they had like humility. You think Saudi government is not religious? No, I don't think Saudi government is not religious. I think Saudi government is primarily dictated in its alliances by capital. Which is why it allies with the United States.
Following. Muslim countries are not for. Look at
like when you think of what happened to like you think of what happened to Yemen. That was done in conjunction between the UK, the United States, and Saudi Arabia. Muslim country. Capital. Enemy is capital. But that doesn't aggrandize, people who want to get rich and famous and feel good about themselves for being religious. So you have people like this who will just not bring that up. Because when you're talking about colonialism, what are you talking about? And it's weird, too, that this keeps getting brought up, but capital doesn't. Why does colonialism exist? Like, it's often lost on people that the people who colonized America were private adventurers. These were business people who made a business proposition. The crown capitulated with them, but they came of their own volition. They weren't knights sent across to spread the word of God. they were businessmen. Even during the Reconquista, which by the way set the precedent for this, the crown was hiring private companies of warriors to fight the Muslim Empire. State power now became intrinsically connected not to religious right, but to their ability to pay private people to do their bidding. Boom. There you go.
Palestine issue. There are non-Muslim countries who have done a better job than the Muslim countries with the Palestine issue. You know, they've acted more Islamic than the Muslim countries have. I agree with this criticism. We are not talking about that. As he's talking about execution and this and that. How dare you talk about execution? You are speaking to the IDF, telling them,
there we go.
If you're going to commit
bringing it back. My man.
Atrocities, don't bring your phone out. You are in no position whatsoever to talk about rights to us today. No position. Zero.
By the way, this Big Nick dude, we talked to him last stream. Capital is the enemy. And here's the kicker for you. If you're a nationalist or if you're a cultural chauvinist and you're complaining about your whatever being replaced, guess what turns everything into a common substrate that makes you vulnerable to being replaced? Just so you know, your conspiracy theories notwithstanding, like it is actually the case that culture generally is being traded off for its exchange value. Sold off and so on and so forth. Not by any nefarious particular group anywhere, just as a function of when people engage with it, what do they see? They see values. People with money who buy a thing sees values. It's the way in which they can extract stuff from it. And so they change it and exchange it away and don't pay any attention whatsoever to the stuff that's on the ground that actually organically emerged there. Whether or not it was originally there, or whether it emerged after the case because, you know, life finds a way and communities built up even in modern type societies. That's the cause of that. That uprootedness, that complete loss of identity and connection to any sort of real community, that's the product of that, of everything being made into reduced to some common exchangeable substrate. And so it gets traded in for everything else, including people. Greed is the enemy, money is a tool, capital is not a tool. Capital is a particular human relationship. Money is a way to represent the common substrate between things. And greed? Greed is the enemy? Really? In what period in time did people not want stuff? What has changed is the capital part. Greed is for things that are useful. Modes of production alter what is useful to individuals. Greed has always been the enemy. It's biblical. Oh, I mean, as if to illustrate, your Bible costs money.
Sanctimony is gone, and you are finished. I'm sorry to say.
But yeah, sure, why not? Greed. Yeah, sure. Greed. Greed bad. Great. Good for you. The enemy is the impulse that you were designed to have. Well done.
As much as the fellow speaker wants to pay me as a Zionist Israeli person, I've never given a speech to the IDF. I don't think
Yeah, you did.
I think Israel has unique issues. Here's the one piece of advice I'll give you, okay? If you're joining the IDF, okay? Leave your fucking cell phone at home and stop taking stupid fucking videos, okay? Because everybody's fucking you with them, okay? And if you see a soldier, okay, going through a fucking drawer, and listen, if you want to fucking wear a dress and you think it's funny, just don't fucking take a fucking video picture of it, okay? Jesus. Okay.
Just the most evil person alive, isn't he? Like, he literally is just the most evil human on this earth. Like, full stop. Like, put him in a room with Netanyahu. Which one's more evil? Extract the power differential between them? I don't know which one I'd pick. I'm not gonna lie.
They would much want my advice or my criticisms. Not a fan of Netanyahu, never have been. We could get into that later if
It's because you envy his position. You want to be as big and famous as he is.
you'd like. You're talking about the ability to connect.
Like, why would you ever have an issue with anything Netanyahu said or done? You're the same kind of person.
Atheism to liberal society, and you're saying that I'm simply begging that I'm simply asserting that it must be true for one liberal society to exist, that there must be some atheist.
Well, they weren't in uniform, they don't count. I mean, IDF membership is mandatory. It's not, he is talking to the IDF.
Foundation.
And he did specify specifically people in the IDF.
My question to you would be, how could you have a foundation to a society that is some kind of religion that also allots for other religions to practice themselves in identical ways?
Whatever happened to currency that was good for more than just money? Well, that's actually kind of the problem with currency that's good for more than just money. So one of the things that happens is, like, for example, you'll hear about pirates collecting Spanish doubloons. Why did pirates collect Spanish doubloons? Because the gold they were made of was worth more, changed in value, due to the scarcity of doubloons specifically. And so the currency ended up in a weird situation where, like, the exchange rates between stuff was all screwy.
When religions tend to be mutually exclusive, especially the Abrahamic ones, when they say that my holy book, my scripture, my God, my interpretation is the correct one, how do you truly have a society where you allow for other people to practice their religious beliefs? I challenge you, I'm curious, in your worldview, in the ideal Islamic country, would you allow people to draw pictures of the Prophet? Would you allow people to practice whatever religion they want?
Would you allow people to draw pictures of nude human beings engaged in explicit sexual activity in public? We don't allow that, by the way. And one has to wonder, what about the most necessary biological occurrence for the propagation of the species? Must particularly be sheltered from public sight. That sounds like a cultural thing. That sounds like a religious thing, actually. I'm just saying. And I think there are cultural reasons for why you shouldn't, because, like, what is appropriate also affects, like, how people receive it and so on and so forth. Like, there are practical reasons to make decisions about that. But those practical reasons are downstream from some kind of acculturation towards hostility towards particular types of depictions. There's fundamentally no difference.
Would you allow people to do things that, so long as they comport with the basic laws that we all agree on when it comes to, things like don't steal, don't murder, don't do, obvious crimes we all agree on, would you allow in your ideal Islamic society all of these other religions to practice in the same way that in a liberal society, in an atheist society, in a secularly built society, other religions are able to practice?
He asked me a series of questions, and he said that, would you allow the drawing of the Prophet? Would you allow this? Would you allow that? In the same way as liberal societies, why should it be the same way? You haven't proven liberalism is true, and you haven't proven that atheism is true. You've given us no arguments for anything. And then he says, free speech. Well, it's very interesting he mentions free speech, because I'm going through some of his content, and he was making an argument for child. And he, in fact, said that there's a pragmatic case for child.
Oh.
So, yes, the Muslim countries would actually ban something like that. And that is an inhibition to the free speech people like you, atheist morality, would bring to the table. Child banned in the Muslim countries, for example. Maybe that'll put you in trouble. Or...
Oh my God. That argument I just made, Stephen's going to go there. That's great. You know what? Well played. Let's...
Listen to that, because I know you sent some pictures to that person, whatever. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, this is so good. This is actually getting good. Okay. He brought it back.
I'm surprised you're even here today, so quite frankly.
Me too. God, this man's... Just everything about this guy. Like, this is a look. That is a look. Whatever else you might think about this guy's arguments, that is a good look.
I was thinking whether or not I should humiliate you, but I was worried that maybe you enjoy it.
Ooh. I mean, he might. Legitimately. He actually might.
It's over here, man. You haven't answered
Well, thanks for the 10 gifted memberships.
any of my questions. I'm asking you, how do you connect atheist morality with liberalism. There is
With glue.
no answer, there's no connection. So all of your subsequent questions are a waste of time because you are a puny, perverse, yes, I'm sorry to say puny, perverse, pro-genocide, pipsqueak of an individual.
PPPG,
This is the case.
Oh.
And there's nothing more to be said about you.
Pretty good. He got up and he sat back down. Look at that. I'm sorry. I enjoyed that so much. Hang on. We got to watch that again, okay? We got to see it. We got to see it one more time.
Yes, I'm sorry to say puny, perverse, pro-genocide, pipsqueak of an individual. This is the case. And there's nothing more to be said about you.
What? Oh, Jesus.
I would have prepared more personal insults if I knew that was the direction we were taking this, but okay. Again, I will say, you're saying
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Giga chat through it.
that I haven't connected atheism to a liberal society.
You haven't. Atheism, liberalism is literally Christian in origin. It's not atheistic. It's not atheistic. The basis for, he hasn't read anything. He doesn't know. He doesn't frickin' know. I think he's been going through, the Federalist Papers on stream for God knows what reason. Because here's the problem, too. Stephen will basically do a lot of substances and then just, cram Wikipedia articles. But that's not how you learn. There's a reason why people in university don't just cram Wikipedia articles for a test. They actually read and engage with stuff, and why they write papers and so on and so forth. Because you need to remember the material so that you can build. So does attacking his character is a good tactic? Depending on how you do it, absolutely attacking character can be a great tactic. He's done it in ways in this conversation I don't think are very good. He's done it in ways that I think are very good. I think that last one was that was a good one. I don't know what this is, but he did it. You need to be able to remember the material. So one of the ways you do that is you engage with it. And you build connections through argument and through the tactile process of actually writing things down, notes and such. I take notes. I annotate my books. Why? Is it because I'm going to be reading the notes? Sometimes, but also a major part of it is that by writing it down, I build a memory diagram in my body that allows me to read. It's why people stim when they're trying to remember things. I remember vast amounts of information because I have multiple pathways to take to that information because I've engaged with it in multiple different ways. There are many different things that trigger the memory of that material. If you're only cramming it through for the purpose of a test, you're only picking out the information that you think in your ignorance will help you in this particular engagement. By the time you're done, you've lost it all. You've lost all of it. Isn't stimming related to autism? No, everybody stims. That's not an autistic thing. I mean, autistic people do stim too. Maybe a lot, but depending on the person. Everybody does. Every time you see someone doing this when they're thinking, that's what they're doing.
But I noticed that you failed to answer my question of what types of behaviors would you allow in your model Islamic society without having the foundation as some secular system, without being able to point to law.
See, what he can do, and he would win this exchange. This is a good thumbnail, by the way. That's a good thumbnail, right there. He's found his proper niche. What he could do is just say, well, none of the stuff that you've done, Stephen, let me count. That'd be easy. That'd be an easy one to do. But also, you literally can't connect liberalism to atheism. Liberalism emerges from a bunch of Christian documents. Why is it not the magistrate's appropriate place to dictate religion? Because the magistrate is not in a place of, let's say, intellectual authority as regards judgments about the path to salvation. It's a specifically religious argument based on the need for sincerity of belief in order to be saved. That's a Christian argument. John Locke, letter concerning toleration.
Laws without being able to point to a system of governance. It doesn't originate from some holy book. I don't know how you can say that a liberal society, one that allows for all religions to practice equally, isn't necessarily a...
Liberalism does not... Well, the point is not that you need God to be a liberal. You don't. The point is not that you need to be religious to be a liberal. The point is that liberalism is specifically an inheritance of specifically religious ways of thinking. It develops from that.
Society that doesn't take a normative position on what religion is true or what religion is false. Again, there is a reason why you have come to this country, and while you might insult me and call me a lot of names, which funny enough is an indication that the person doesn't feel confident in the material, I guess, that they're talking about.
Good one, Steve. You got him. You got him there.
You have the right to do that, and you're able to
you're just insulting me because you're insecure.
do that here as a, I don't know if you were born in this country, if you're an immigrant to this country, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
I don't think anyone cares what you think is a beautiful thing, Stephen. Let me tell you, as someone who is very much in favor of the complete free interchange of people between wherever, I don't want you making that argument. I don't want you attached to that argument. Fuck off. I don't want you representing that side. I don't want that position getting tied to the things that you do.
I don't think that you would be able to get away with the same type of behavior in the countries that you seem to want to model this one or other Western countries out of. Again, I ask you, if you think that there is a better way to build...
Well, I mean, let's take an example. What about Iran? Just as an example. Iran's got a pretty interesting history with respect to this stuff. It wasn't actually always Islamic fundamentalist. What even made the space for Khomeini to get into power in the first place? Oh. Little acronym crew.
Build a country with an Islamic foundation. Where are these countries? It seems like they fell in the past. They haven't emerged again. If you're telling me that atheism is not the model or is not the foundation for a secular liberal society that allows for other religions to practice equally, well then tell me, what is the religious foundation for that society? How can you have a society that allows for multiple religions to practice, all of them to be treated in an equal manner by the laws and the government?
Sir, you actually advocated for the genocide of the Palestinians before October 7th on the basis of their religion. I'm sorry. You don't get to make this argument. You don't get to make this argument.
But say that that society takes some position on religion and that the society itself isn't atheist or isn't liberal. You brought up this idea earlier. It's funny, you used an analogy of a mother birthing herself or a child having two mothers. We can look, for instance, to children born today. That doesn't involve any religious aspect. It doesn't involve a God. It doesn't involve anything else. We know the process by how that works. We don't need religion right now to explain the things that are happening in society.
He used the analogy of a child being brought out of two wombs simultaneously to show the absurdity of some kind of multiplicitous origin of the cosmos. And your response is, well, actually, we know how babies come out of vaginas, dude. Is he actually like, is he dense? Like, is he dim? Like, is he actually is he a dum-dum? Not like in the sense I've been talking about before, but like, is he actually like, you know? Is stuff working up there anymore?
For all the predictions that Muhammad or anybody else supposedly made about things in society, I don't see his name on any research papers. I haven't seen him publish anything in Nature or Science Weekly.
But you don't read Nature or Science Weekly. You don't read stuff, Stephen. What are you talking about? If he did, you wouldn't be aware of it. But also, have you? I don't I am very doubtful that if we tested you on your scientific knowledge with respect to anything, that you would fare particularly well against any fundamentalist. Because here's the thing. Fundamentalists are fundamentally dishonest when it comes to science. But they know the lingo. They're super like hostile to it, generally speaking. The ones who come into debates like this. They debate people like Bill Nye the Science Guy, for God's sake. Like they're aware of this language. They're not good at it, but they're aware of it. I don't think Bill Nye's published in Nature or Science Weekly either, by the way. I'm thinking Bill Nye he had that big debate with Ken Ham years and years ago, remember? Long time ago.
I don't really know what his predictions are doing that are
That
relevant.
was a fun one. He did very well. He had a very smart angle of approach where he was conciliatory and he made science welcoming, and he didn't do the Dawkins thing. He wasn't an asshole to them, which is smart.
Today, I know that, he was the head of a bunch of caliphates or started these that eventually fell and no longer exist. So I'm just curious.
Head of a bunch of caliphates? Who was the head of a bunch of caliphates? What?
For Science Weekly, I don't really know what his predictions are doing that are relevant today. I know that, he was the head of a bunch of caliphates or started these that eventually fell and no longer exist.
The person... Wait. Oh, wait, so when he said Muhammad, was he talking about the person he's debating, or was he talking about Muhammad the Prophet? Was he saying that...
Works. We don't need religion right now to explain the things that are happening in society. For all the predictions that Muhammad or anybody else
Predictions that...
supposedly made about things in society, I don't see his name on any research papers.
Wait, so you're talking about the Prophet Muhammad. You didn't see the Prophet Muhammad write in Nature magazine. Or Nature Journal, sorry. Is that it? Journal, sorry. I always get confused because I've seen like physical prints of it. So I think magazine, because it's printed as a magazine. I thought he was talking about Muhammad Hijab, the guy who's debating. He's saying... Wow.
I haven't seen him publish anything in Nature or Science Weekly. I don't really know what his predictions are doing that are relevant today. I know that, he was the head of a bunch of caliphates or started these that eventually fell and no longer exist.
He was the head of a bunch of caliphates. What?
So I'm just curious.
What the fuck? I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. This is weird. Like, we're in the realm of absolute incoherence. I think the whatever he took to get him through this is kicking in hard.
If in your push to have Islam be the model for Western society, again, where are these countries that you want to model, Western countries off of? And if my foundation for a liberal society is not an atheist one, then tell me what religion am I pointing to in order to have the societies that exist?
What?
An atheist one, then tell me what religion am I pointing to in order to have the societies that exist?
What religion am I pointing to in order to have the societies that exist? Christianity, Stephen. Christianity. You had particular relations between state and king and subject emerge as a consequence of Christian doctrine combined with the needfulness to use private adventurers in order to fight off enemies and conquer territory and obtain new sources of resources. That's the one. Christianity, Stephen. Like the countries you're talking about, it's not just that they wouldn't exist without Christianity. Christianity specifically sanctioned the colonizing of America. The King of England was literally the head of a splinter church. Like, what are you... Dude.
There's response to that. Now we move on to our next segment, which is Some writers
Oh my God. So they're debating immigration. Hang on. They're debating immigration. What is Muhammad Hijab's position on immigration? This could get weird.
So I think that one of the fatal flaws that Western countries have made, especially the United States, is we don't really ask ourselves, what does it mean in my country to be an American? I think that there are good reasons to celebrate immigration. You can look at the numbers side, you can look at the economic impacts, the fiscal impacts, the impacts to business and everything else. And
Everybody's broke right now, Stephen. It's not the argument.
you would say, well, immigration is beneficial there. You can look at certain aspects of culture and say...
I don't like this line of argumentation because it kind of misses the point. The reason why you should be pro-immigration is that a condition of freedom is that you're able to choose where you live and choose what rule you submit to, and that gives, under liberalism, by the way, this is the condition of liberalism, but liberals aren't liberals anymore. Is the Muslim guy against immigration? That's funny. It's funny. That's the liberal argument. It's one of the reasons why originally, anywhere within the British Empire, people from colonized India, for example, were technically legally free to go to other colonies or to the UK, or to England, not the UK at the time. I don't think Destiny's pro-immigration. That would be strange. That'd be a strange move. That'd be a very strange move. We'll see, I suppose. But, like, that would be the argument. You don't never make the argument that immigration good because line go up. And here's why. The argument that immigration good because line go up is pointing to the needfulness of the exploitation of people who are not legally protected in order to keep your economy afloat. It's essentially slavery by other means. That is the line of argumentation. I saw Adam Ragusa. I'm doing a video on social contract logic about immigration, by the way. I mean, it has a brief digression on that. Adam Ragusa made the point that, well, actually the United States is welcoming of immigrants, so provided that they, at least until the Trump administration, provided, generally speaking, that they accept low wages, no protections, and basically bolster the American economy by doing what is de facto slave labor. That's their social contract. Hey, we'll let you in. You'll be welcome to work here, but you'll have no protections. You'll be taken advantage of. You'll accept a miserable standard of life. And that's a terrible argument, because it's like, oh, well, we're scamming. Look at what they're willing to accept, and we're breaking our end of the deal? Really? Wow, aren't we awful? It's like, well, no, how about you're awful because your inclination as a society is to be fine with turning a blind eye towards the continued, essentially, the continuation of the slave trade, just by other means. You force them into coming of necessity. You force them into accepting a tremendously low standard of living and low protections and to suffer tremendous abuse. Technically, they're making a small wage. It's how you chain them in place. But, like, that's gross. Who cares about Adam Ragusa? Adam Ragusa has got a massive channel, and he's very influential. We're talking about someone who, like, I hate people who think, like, oh, why do we care about Adam Ragusa? He runs a cooking channel. Political content creators have a tiny amount of reach compared to people who actually make media that is consumed by the public at large. Someone who writes like a Slavoj Žižek will never, ever have the level of influence of a J.K. Rowling. That's just a fact. So when somebody with, like, mass appeal makes these points, it has an impact. It's one of the reasons why the Democrats courting, like, political streamers to help them like do public propaganda is such a dumb move. You don't want political streamers for that. Those are people who make enemies. Those are people who risk their reputations constantly in a desperate bid for a particular type of prestige and clout. No, you want people who do, like, popular content, like Markiplier, or like that Penguin Zero dude. That's who you want. You want people like that, people of scale who actually get watched by normies for fun. It does matter. A person like Adam Ragusa is significantly, his opinion on anything is significantly more important than someone like Stevens. Right? So I strongly disagree with the idea that nobody cares about what Adam Ragusea thinks. And moreover, like, this is a person who, as like a cooking channel, is someone who also has like some like serious credentials. I think when this person makes comments on like American political economy, it affects how people think about this in a big way. It's a big deal. I actually like Adam Ragusea, by the way. I think he's just wrong about that. Yeah, moist critical, that guy, yeah.
That we're enriched when it comes to foods or entertainments or arts, and you say there's an enrichment there, but what does it mean to actually be an American? What is the core base of values that all of us should be sharing? When I look at countries in the West today, especially after the Syrian refugee crisis, especially 2013 onwards, especially post-Brexit in the United Kingdom, I feel like we haven't come together in a long time in a lot of these
Don't please never talk about coming together, Stephen.
countries, especially in mine. I can't speak as much for yours. But we haven't come together and asked ourselves, what does it mean to be a member of our nation? And what kind of values should we be looking for from people that are coming to our nation?
Is he actually taking the anti-immigration tack? Is that actually the angle, Stephen?
Again, I will, hearkening back to the last subject, I like the concept of liberalism as a secular government, because as long as we share some core values that we're all
Oh, he's going full on Christo-fascist. That's amazing. That's brilliant.
working and building towards, some concept of a nation that we're working and building towards, liberalism provides a lot of different paths to get there. A Muslim like Mamdani in New York can be the mayor of New York City, which is a wonderful thing. We have evangelical Christians in the United States. I would say that they're less wonderful things, but I'm glad that they have the right to exist. We have secular atheists. We've got Zionists and non-Zionist Jews. We've got all sorts
You've
of...
got non-Zionist Jews? You can't say that one, Stephen. Oof. Let's zoom in on this for a second. Look at those eyes. That is rough. This has not been a kind year to him. This man is 36.
different types of people that can exist under this umbrella, all working towards a common goal. I think that when you have people that are proponents of immigration, I think that it's good to take a step back sometimes and think, well, what do we want our country to look like?
He's actually going, that's actually crazy. Complete reversal of his prior stances on immigration. That's amazing. Wait, he's not 36? How old is he now? He's 36.
What kind of people should we want to come here? And that doesn't just mean people that look or think like.
Isn't he over 40? No, he's like over 70 in his soul. It's like the picture of Dorian Gray, just with a lot more splotches on it.
It means people that are building towards some kind of common goal. And I think for people that are harshly critical of immigration, I think it's good for them to ask the same question. Do I want nobody coming here because they don't look like me or because they don't think exactly like me? And what kind of restrictions would I draw on immigrants coming here that I wouldn't also restrict on my own countrymen? I notice sometimes in the United States, for instance, that a lot of conservatives will talk about how we want to restrict immigration from people that have A, B, and C or X, Y, and Z thoughts that they feel like aren't aligned with.
It's not a complete reversal, or at least it's an old reversal.
American values, but I would point to a lot of conservatives in the United States, and I would say that your disregard.
Well, frankly, like it sounds like he's actually essentially valorizing the anti-Muslim law of Trump. Like that's the only upshot. Otherwise, he's not saying anything. Like what kind of people? People with a criminal record? You already don't allow that.
For rule of law, the Constitution doesn't align with our values. So I think that if you're going to have a view on immigration, I think that you should have first a view on what your nation is and what it looks like, and then you should try to incorporate more and more people as long as you're building towards that final project or vision.
Yeah, that final project or vision, that is specifically based on excluding people on the basis of religion or whatever. What else is there? So this is a reversal on this is a total reversal. It's just stated in cowardly terms. This is Stephen being pro-Trump's anti-Muslim travel bans. That's what this is. This debate is a new topic, Destiny's cult of personality. I might phrase that Destiny's minor cult of personality, but I think that double entendre might go over the heads of normies.
Well, I think with this one, the interlocutor and I'm not going to disagree that much as we did in the previous one. But what I will say is that when we think about it, when we talk about immigration and what's happening now in the media, especially vis-a-vis Muslim immigration, Muslim immigrants, the sons of immigrants, I mean, he asked me, You came to this country. I didn't come to this country. I was born in this country. You're the one who came, sorry to say, to this
Yeah, it's an old reversal. He's been arguing this since he wanted to affluent in Southern. Yeah.
country as a visitor. You don't have to be white to be actually somebody who belongs to this country. And that's the point. Look, people are talking about grooming gangs, unemployment, criminality, and these kind of things vis-a-vis the Muslim population. But when was the last time you heard that despite a 6% population, the Muslims are 6% of this country, that they constitute 22%, according to Christie Foundation, NHS Foundation, of the medical professionals in the NHS. In fact, 51% of the NHS are comprised of people who are immigrants or the sons of immigrants. If you remove that, you will have a crisis.
Like the argument is, hey, Stephen, who do you want to exclude? Specify this. And I hope he does in the follow-up, because like that's what gets him. Because Stephen is essentially making just a cowardly form of the argument that a pro-Trump person would make. He's not even a Democrat. Like genuinely, like he's not even a Biden-era Democrat anymore.
Is so large, it will be as if Britain went into war. You cannot. People have this discussion about immigration. They disregard the fact, for example, that Muslims, once again, are 4 times, according to Charity UK, more likely to give to charity than their non-Muslim counterpart. Muslims contribute 70 billion per...
Out of respect for your opponent, you do your best. No, you do your best and worse, you don't lose, Nick. What a dumb thing to say. What are you, a Klingon?
year to the UK economy, which is equivalent to Birmingham and Manchester combined, the output of those two things. Now, if you remove all those contributions, you will have a cascading impact in Britain that is so far-reaching that it will dent the economy and it will bring death and destruction upon the people of Britain. The question isn't about, oh, we can have this discussion about immigration. You need us. You need the immigrants. Don't speak in a position of privilege as if we can't have it. You actually need the immigrants. You're in a position where you are dependent on immigrants. This country is dependent on immigrants and the sons of immigrants. And then he talks about the Syrian refugee crisis. I don't even know what point he made, frankly. Sorry, I wasn't listening very clearly. And the microphone is not that clear for me. But, exactly, Syria...
What the fuck?
refugee crisis. If you support a genocide in Palestine, you support it, and people then run away from Palestine to try to come to the West, then you are the architects of your own complaints. You are creating the conditions of your own complaints. In other words, if the Western powers decide to go into these different countries, like Iraq, like Afghanistan, like Syria, like Libya, like Palestine, or help those who are doing it, and then those people that start fleeing and coming to Europe, you created this issue. So what do you want to do with these people? You either bomb them...
By the way, as far as where are the Muslims? It's Jordan right now. A lot of people.
When they're there, when they try and run away, you say no to them as well. Sorry to say, what kind of a situation is this? What kind of situation is it? And let's talk about integration and assimilation. Unemployment. According to the BBC, if you have a Muslim name, you're 3 times less likely to be employed by the same job for the same position. So I would say, yes, it's true, there are some legitimate concerns with immigration. There are legitimate concerns with minority groups. I'm not going to deny that. And there has to be some concession made. There are things we have to work on, as every community in Britain. But at the same time, the way forward is there to be a reciprocity between the government or the dominant population and these minority groups. And there needs to be a reduction to the barriers of discrimination.
Like, here's the thing. Stephen, like, his argument was towards reducing barriers to immigration. Stephen's argument, the only positive part about it, was arguing that actually, all these wishy-washy, bleeding heart liberals, we actually do need more restrictions on immigration. That's the pro-Trump argument. Like, he's literally just providing diagonal support for Trump. This is so pathetic. How do people still watch this guy and think that he's, like, providing any sort of, like, effective resistance against fascism? He would have been a fascist if Lawrence Southern was willing to have an open relationship. Stephen is right-wing? No, he's not right-wing. He's nothing. He's literally nothing. Lawrence Southern is right-wing. Stephen is actually nothing. Stephen has no wings.
So I think we maybe agree
No matter how much Red Bull he drank.
on a bit of immigration, although I think the priorities are a little bit different in terms of certain groups of people. When I'm having conversations or debates on immigration, one of the things I tend to look for is how...
Am I trying to sleep with this person or not? If I'm trying to sleep with this person, I agree with them and they kind of have a point. If I'm not, oh, they're subhuman.
much people mix up groups of people or how wide of a net people cast when they talk about certain groups of people. So I can't speak to the particular numbers on immigration in the United Kingdom, but I do think it was interesting that it seemed like simultaneously a very high percentage of immigrants, maybe Muslims in particular, were doctors, but also a very high percentage of people, or a much higher percentage of people than named Muhammad, are unemployed. So clearly we're talking about different groups of immigrants here, and I think it's probably worth it to pay attention to different groups of immigrants. I think that one of the big mistakes that people have made is in allowing immigrants to come up and improve your economy. The economy improving is not the same thing as life for an individual improving. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there are ways to bring in immigrants to a country where the overall economy improves, but the improvement is slight over the entire economy, but
But that was your line go up argument, Stephen.
Destruction to parts of the economy are very concentrated and are very noticed. And especially in the United States, we have issues along...
So now we're concern trolling. Now we're making my argument, but with the aim to keep immigrants out. So now you're concern trolling and saying, well, actually, they're just being taken advantage of. It's for their own good that we don't let them in. Got it. Good job, Stephen. Good
our
move.
Manufacturing sector, where you can see concentrated damage that different types of immigration have caused. While the entire country might benefit, the people that are in those damaged sectors will obviously feel like they've been abandoned by their nation, by their country, and I think there's a legitimate grievance that should be addressed.
Wow. Yeah, he's just a conservative at this point. He has no identity. And imagine being someone in his audience and you are so stupid. And I gotta say, his audience is stupid at this point. By design, he's weeded out everybody who questions him. Intelligent people question when the people they follow contradict themselves. So he gets rid of them. So he's isolated it down. He's filtered out anyone with a functioning frontal cortex. And imagine, though, imagine how much of yourself you would have to subtract from your mental life to watch this guy and take him seriously. I can't even imagine it. It's like trying, like what would it be like to experience the world through the mind of a slug? I couldn't do it.
So as long as you are balancing...
Nick a band noise, he's timed out for 24 hours because he's getting annoying.
out
And you were all getting annoying talking to him.
The types of immigrants you want to come in. It's important to distinguish different types of immigrants from other types of immigrants. A doctor who wants to come to the UK or the United States from Syria is going to be a lot different than an asylum seeker coming from North Africa, is going to be a lot different than a PhD researcher coming from Kenya, is going to be a lot different than...
Yeah, so listen, here's the deal, guys. Like, I'm all pro-immigration, but we need to be extremely classist in how we go about it. Only rich people, okay?
And supposed asylum seeker from South Africa. All of these people are different, and you have to look at them in kind of their disparate groups and, assess which ones you want in your country and how you want them to contribute. And I'm very hesitant to take advice or critique from somebody talking about immigration who's very quick to lump...
A lot of these people, by the way, with those degrees, were from families that didn't have the opportunity to do that had to do a lot of really sketchy stuff to get to a point where they could raise their kids in that context.
lump all of these groups together and imply that we should treat all of them somewhat equally.
Yeah, he's not saying nothing. As far as like the pro-liberal stuff goes, he's saying nothing. But then at the end, he throws a bone to Trump. Hey, actually, we gotta take the racists' concerns seriously, guys. We have to curate who comes in based on the perceptions of white nationalists. That's what that was.
Yeah, so unemployment was mentioned again. And as I mentioned, look, when it comes to criminality and unemployment, this is the main argument that people make against immigrants or migrants or ethnic minorities, right?
You ain't competing for fruit-picking jobs. Let's just cut it right there, okay? That's it. And as far as people who are taking jobs in like fast food or something like that, I'm not competing with them either, but B, they're not coming in that way. They have forms. They are legal. Those organizations would not be able to get away with that. That's how that works.
The fact is, there are two major predictors for those things, okay? Number one is being a man. If you're a man,
yeah,
you are more likely to be a criminal, okay? Maybe 10 times more likely than a woman. No one's going to ban men from the country, okay? No one's going to say, okay, the UK, no men are allowed in, because actually you're represented to a degree of 10 to or 100 to 1, whatever it may be, in prisons. So there has to be some discussion about, okay, well, what are the parameters now? The second predictor is actually socioeconomics. Now, in the
okay,
UK,
is that actually, this is good. This is actually good.
Western Europe, the issue is that it's different to the way it happened in the United States. When the United States people brought people in for immigration, they had a more select criterion. Okay, they brought in middle-class people. That's why there's no talk of grooming gangs in Pakistani communities in California. There's no talk of it whatsoever. Why? Because they're middle class. Because they're doctors and engineers. In other words, when you're poorer, you're more likely to commit more crimes in certain areas, regardless of race, religion, or whatever it may be. Wealth is the predictor. It's socioeconomics. So it's not, oh, these black people are coming in and they're doing this. These Mexican people, no. When you get a black man and a white man who have the same money, they're likely to commit the same crimes and be unemployed in the same level, etc., etc. So the point is...
This guy's a better liberal than Stephen is, which is incredible to say.
The immigration thing has missed the colonial aspect. Britain's history with colonialism meant that it called the people from ex-colonies to come into Britain as unskilled labor after the World War in order to fix their country. They can't just do that and then tell them to leave afterwards. And hence, the reason why you've got people from Pakistan or from Jamaica or from whatever, India, in England, is because they were ex-colonies and that these people were used as unskilled labor. And because they're in that socioeconomic...
Is he taking the grooming gangs hysteria seriously? It doesn't matter. Rhetorically, it works. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's a surrogate for extreme crime, right? Because there is hysteria about it. There are also, like, real cases, but, like, this works. At a rhetorical level, this works. You don't need to interrogate that rhetoric here. He's also bluntly, like, in like spheres at a level of discourse where I don't think that is challenged very often. But, like, it's the thing where it's like, it doesn't matter because the issue and the argument is not that, oh, crime is not as high as they think. The crux of the argument should be, for the crime that is there, what is the cause? And what he's targeting is the racial and religious animus. And I think that's a good strategy. This actually works very well. I'm fine with this. It's kind of like... It's like when people argue about, like, crime statistics, right? What do you want to do? What's your tack? Do you want to make the argument that, oh, well, white people commit as much crime or slightly as much? Or do you want to make the argument that the cause is socioeconomic and therefore is downstream not from racial characteristics but from the way in which certain communities are abused and deprived? Because one of those things has a solution that is not racist, and one of those arguments has a solution that is. Right? The whole story is massively misreported from the beginning. They focus on the racial aspect to obscure the complicity of the police. Well, they characterize it as the police being woke, which, let me tell you, no.
Bracket, they will be more likely in some areas to commit certain crimes or to be unemployed just by virtue of socioeconomics. But that's not an argument against Islam. It's not an argument against or race realist argument or whatever it may be, because that's where it's veering towards. That's the right-wing argument, that they're doing it because of their religion. They're doing it because of their race. And that's what we should be against, because actually the data is against all of that. So when we're having the discussion about immigration...
This was a really good response by Mohammed. That was a really good response.
The connection, the causal connection between these aspects which they consider to be wrong, on the one hand, and what's going on in someone's religion or...
Oh, by the way, there's going to be a video essay up on Tuesday morning. If you want to see the recording early, I'm hoping to get that out by tomorrow morning, tonight or tomorrow morning. Join the Patreon. It's going to be available at every single tier. You also get access to exclusive... I'm just showing the Patreon quickly because we've got a brief... I'm going for like 2.5 hours, taking a quick breather. If you go into Patreon, we have exclusive streams. We go over like political theory. We do call-ins. You get a special role in the server that allows you to call in. And there is, of course, like special like merch and early access to video recordings and scripts. So if you want access to that stuff, consider joining the Patreon. It helps support my channel. It helps support the pre-prepared content. I've got the big first episode of the big Philosophy of Bloodborne series coming out next Tuesday is the goal. That's currently being edited. The recording's up. You can, if you want to listen to it in advance, it's up there. The next part's hopefully going to be up the week following, and you'll get access to the script as soon as that's done.
Race, on the other, is there is no connection. And the connection is actually a socioeconomic one.
That was a really good response.
I don't think I disagreed much with what was said. I will say that when you're talking about different groups of immigrants, though, it's important that morality enters the...
Jesus Christ, he's so stupid. He's so stupid. Stephen, the right doesn't want you. Who is he appealing to here? This is so dumb. It's important that morality enters the conversation. You want to talk about morality, Stephen? Really? Stephen, you are in court because you were sexually exploiting the people in your inner circle and sharing intimate images of them and video of them without their permission to a minor. Shut up. You were just called out for advising IDF members to cover up war crimes. We have the recording of this on YouTube. Everyone has seen it. So stupid. He's so stupid.
Conversation, depending on which groups of immigrants that we are talking about. I think that there's a mistake sometimes that when we point to immigration, we only talk about the benefits, but then we talk about different groups of immigrants.
Wow. Destiny wants to be in Nick Fuentes' inner circle. He's been down to like 4K concurrence on average. He's in the pits right now.
And then sometimes they speak of obligations.
Please, can you elaborate on why nihilism sucks? Suggest some authors on it. Nietzsche.
That we have to those immigrants. In the United States,
go read Nietzsche. Don't ask questions. Go read Nietzsche.
Typically most of the immigrants that we bring in are just by virtue of us having oceans separating us from the rest of the world. They're going to be more wealthy. They're going to be higher educated. You're selecting from these kind of higher echelons of society. When these people come in, the expectation for my country and the expectation for any country, I would imagine for an immigrant to come in, is that on net, you're going to benefit the country in a variety of ways. I don't think that that same expectation should be levied, though, towards people that are seeking asylum or for people that are fleeing disaster.
Oh, really? So you're in favor of Palestinians being relocated en masse to America, then? I agree. Fully agree, actually. You know what? I'm on board. I'm on board, Steve. You won me over.
I think that sometimes when people, again, are looking at all of these different groups the same, I think that it's okay to say that there are going to be some groups that, at least for some period of time, either while they're there or if they stay there, are going to be at least fiscal or budget drains on your society, because the situation that they're coming from isn't one that built them to be an economic unit or powerhouse that can contribute to your country. The obligations that we have towards different groups of immigrants, the obligations that we have towards asylum seekers, should be as successful and, relatively speaking, wealthy countries that we can take some amount of people in. It's our good.
This is actually exactly the colonial logic that Marx talks about at the end of Capital Volume 1, by the way. If you've ever wanted to get into Marx, just skip to the end. Read the last chapter. It's basically standalone. I think it's got one word in there when it talks about abstemiousness of capitalists. Go give that a read. It's on the modern theory of colonialism. It's really good. He talks about this, where a lot of the discourse about the laziness of native peoples, for example, in colonized places, there was a problem that a lot of theorists of colonization, back when colonization was not a dirty word, encountered, which was, how do you turn people who were accustomed to living for the sake of being alive and feeding their communities, how do you turn them into wage slaves, essentially? That's what Stephen's talking about here. It's just wonderful. Also, implying that they aren't all wage slaves anyways. Who the hell does he think he's talking about? They aren't accustomed to working? There were universities and businesses in all of these places that are being ravaged by war as a result of colonialism. What are you talking about? Who isn't working for money? Where is this communist utopia that people are fleeing from, Stephen?
Well, for the world, you can even...
I'm sorry, does he think... I got some bad news for you. The people in tribal Africa, they got taken over already in the first wave of what you're talking about. Just FYI. They do it in a more sanitary way now. Who are you talking about? Who are you talking about, Stephen?
Argue
what year is it?
I would argue to a much smaller extent, because I don't...
Of course, this guy thought that Palestine and Israel were in Anatolia, right? He thought that the president of Israel was Aragon, because he couldn't pronounce Erdogan because he's a moron. While he was advocating for their total displacement. So, I'm going to reckon that Stephen probably isn't aware that actually other countries in the Middle East are in the computer age now. I think he thinks... I think when he looks at the camps in Gaza, he thinks, oh, it's just how they live there.
I don't buy into the colonialist arguments as much, but you...
This is like when Trump was asking why no one was immigrating from Norway versus countries he held in this... Yeah, actually.
You can argue that because of the West's impact...
He wasn't uninformed, he was just thinking of the Seleucid Empire. There you go.
On other parts of the world, that we have some obligation as well to take care of people that might be fleeing disaster from there, especially places in the Middle East. But that being said, we have to be able to talk about all of these different groups, the different expectations that we have of these groups, and then the different ways morally that we would approach these groups in terms of how we would allow them into our society, and then how we would incorporate them into our society, what our expectations...
Even your society doesn't want you. Nobody in your society wants you.
...of them would be, and what our...
Although your family was allowed in because you were slave owners in Cuba. Remember when his mother came on stream and she was like, oh, his mother seems like a sweetheart, by the way. I feel bad for her a little bit. But she was like, oh, you would have loved your grandpa's plantation, Stephen. You would have loved playing on your grandpa's plantation in Cuba, Stephen.
Expectations of our own country would be with regards to the treatment of those groups of people.
He sounds like an unmotivated immigration officer. Destiny does sound like an unmotivated immigration officer.
Sure. So with this, I mean, he mentions the expectations and he talks about morality. And we've already had this discussion. He can't even establish what morality is or how it's true or anything like that. He's assuming the truth of his worldview without arguing for it, which is pathetic, actually. This is a debate. You're meant to actually argue for your worldview, whether it's liberalism or atheism. There's no evidence given. But the second thing is that if
Destiny has slave-owning ancestors. I'm just saying he has a pre-Castro family member that owned a plantation in Cuba. You just do the math.
If people have this view, like for example, they say, well, Muslims, conservative Muslims, will be against the liberal paradigm in these areas. The same thing applies for Jews then. Because frankly, the most two closest religions are strict conservative Muslims and strict conservative Jews. If you want to have one policy
You'll bite that bullet. Careful.
for one, don't not have the other policy for the other, because that's a double standard. But we have never heard him speak about that. In fact, he supports European Jewish immigration into Palestine. So it's not like he's against immigration. I mean, he's not really that against immigration anyway, but the point is, it's about who gets to benefit. That's really the bottom line, isn't it? If Europeans get to benefit, it's okay, no problem. There's no questions asked. You can even build settlements. You can even build settlements, no problem. You can even steal someone's home. If you're a European
I mean, if you're an American, that is basically what you're talking about.
Jewish immigrant going into Palestine, immigration is fine. But if you're someone coming into the UK, no, there's a discussion about expectations now, actually. If you're seeking asylum, are you? What do you mean seeking asylum? You created these wars. You bombed these people. They're running for their life. And now, before you come in, tell us what you're going to bring to the table. Is this a joke? Is this some kind of is this satire? This is pathetic, frankly. No argument has been given. If you don't want asylum seekers and refugees in these European countries, then don't create wars in those countries. We are here because they were there. That's the reality of the situation.
I like this guy. I disagree with him on basically everything outside of this area of the conversation, but I like this. This is good. This is pretty good.
Prevention is better than cure. Don't create a disaster.
I'll find reasons not to like him eventually, don't worry. But right now, I like this guy.
And then ask, why is it happening? You created it with your own hands.
Dude, this is a really good line of argumentation. And Stephen has nothing to retort with except, well, actually, I think Trump has a point, kinda. But literally, that's it. His entire refuge in this whole debate has been basically to provide very limp support for Trumpism.
Yeah, again, I mean, I don't really disagree much, but I will say that if you're going to have a conversation then about different groups of immigrants coming in...
I don't really disagree much, but maybe, Lauren, there's a chance. Melina's out of the picture now.
And just be honest about what the
the leftists don't like me anymore. I can change, Lauren.
expectations are and be honest about how you expect them to immigrate into your
I promise I won't share your photos again.
society and integrate into your society.
Or your DMs, I guess.
You can't, on one hand, say that we have caused
You shouldn't. There are credible allegations to try to force one of his partners into a concubinage relationship. Okay, well, right now, though, it's Christmas, okay? Wait until the end of this. Wait until the... Hold on to that one, okay? Fucking hell.
disasters
I knew it. That's why I kept couching. It's like, I know there's going to be something else there. I know it.
regions of the world, and now we expect asylum seekers to come because we owe it to them, and then in the next breath say, well, actually, all of these people are going to contribute on net to society at the same time. The first thing is a moral obligation that we would have to take care of a group of people. The second is just an economic trade, and our expectations and our approach to both of things could be wildly different.
But you defended a genocide, Stephen. You can't claim a moral obligation to defend other people.
I don't know if we're going to get into Israel.
You prey on the people you immediately work with. You invite them into your house and you secretly record them. Like you don't get to make that argument.
Palestine war in the question section, obviously. The other speaker here has a lot of opinions on that. But yeah, I would say broadly we probably agree on immigration. Just when you're having conversations about immigration, make sure that you're treating every group differently. Make sure that you're having an honest conversation about what your expectations are of each group and what your expectations are for those groups once they're in your country and how your country should treat those groups.
Thank you for saying nothing again, Steve. Why are you there? Why are you there? I know why he's there, because he just really wants to be in the Oxford Union. It's like the reason why this is so pathetic ultimately is because people have asked, like in the chat as this is going on, why did Stephen go there? He's got all this stuff going on. His reputation is in the dump. He's made himself look like a psychopath, even to people who aren't aware of his currently, well, I mean, like what should be his criminal history, but aren't even aware of like his current court proceedings and his mountain of scandals. Why is he there? Why is he exposing himself to this? Because all of this is just about like getting his corpse into a room. He just wants to be in a building with other people who have actually like earned a spot to talk about stuff. That's all. It's like at the end of a video game where you just go back to a save point and just do all of the little little places. Like, oh, what if I went that way? What if I went that way? Da, 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 da. But it's a really boring video game. And you speed ran the whole thing, so you didn't even follow the plot. It's like laundering. This isn't laundering, though. Because, like, all of this stuff is at the mainstream level. People are now talking about this when he goes to public engagements. He's kind of fucked. People like Anna Kasparian are bringing it up on Piers Morgan. Now this has followed him. It's actually made its way to parity with his actual, like, public profile. And there's been a massive wave of backlash against anti-Palestinian sentiment. And that's intensifying radically. So his entire position is on the downswing. He's still on stage? Yeah, who cares if he's still on stage? Getting on stage isn't the achievement. I want him on stage. The achievement is getting him on stage with those claims about him. And they're there. They are there. He makes those insinuations. Muhammad Hijab already made those insinuations. And he will continue to make them. And other people will start making them, so they'll start looking. This is now acceptable in the Oxford Union, by the way. This type of interaction about him in particular. This doesn't happen to other people, generally speaking. Other people, like, for example, like people who are in government, will get accusations of racism or of complicity in crimes. That's happened before. Very rarely will you have accusations of that nature. That's different.
Thank you for that. We now conclude
Wah, 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 wah. Wah, wah. Wah, 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 wah.